Hello and welcome back to Follow On. It's been a long time, and unfortunately, we have not been able to record it because of a million other reasons and things that have been going on in our life. And of course, Hamza has been seeing a lot of FIFA, so we haven't gotten time for cricket. But now we are happy to be back, and let's see how this unfolds. How have you been?
I've been good, Hamar. How have you been? Apologies from my end also. I think the last month has been a bit busy, work-wise, personal life-wise. Both of us have been traveling a lot, so it was very difficult for us to be in the same room. Considering we are also in most of the week in different cities in the UAE, so that's just a fun fact that you would know about us.
Yeah.
But Amar, what are we talking about today?
I mean, there are a couple of things that we had sort of missed when we have not been talking about them. Is like, of course, Babar got appointed as captain, something we talked about in our last podcast actually, and you were making a case for it, so you were, let's say, AI in that. And the second thing is we want to talk today also about a little bit about the new World Cup structure that have been introduced. And then we also want to talk about the central contracts that PCB introduced. And let's see how, that has been, whether it's good or bad. And general cricket stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, so essentially we are going to cover three things today. We are going to sort of unwind over the last 2 months of cricket, Pakistan of course being at the core of it, for us at least. We're going to talk about the squads that have been announced for the West Indies squad, the major changes that have come along the way, such as Babar being appointed as the captain. 2, we are going to talk about the new contract structure that the PCB has introduced. And 3, we are going to talk about the new ICC World Cup structure itself.
Yeah, okay. So regarding Babar being as the captain, essentially my idea is that West Indies series happening. First of all, to begin with, I think Shaheen Afridi either should have been dropped off at the beginning of the World Test Championship cycle or should have been dropped after that. Right now it doesn't make sense, but I guess it's okay because we did not see any glimpse of hope in Shaheen Afridi anymore, and maybe that's the way to go forward, that you just give Babar this chance to develop the squad, to work into the system and then move towards building a team later on.
No, absolutely. I think unfortunately the results were not going into our favor. We've already previously talked about Shaan's test win loss ratio being one of the worst in the last 20-30 years for Pakistan. So I think maybe one of the reasons why we kept Shaheen in the squad was that I think for the element of continuity in terms of the batting order, especially with Saud Shakil's fitness being a doubt, Rizwan's form being a doubt. We've already seen them, Pakistan, in the limited overs, phasing Rizwan out in the ODIs as well, with Ghazi Gori coming in and taking his place and performing quite okay. Fair. So maybe I think for the sake of continuity, it would have made sense, especially given I think Abdullah, Fazal and Azan Awais being two very new players to the format. Yeah. So you would need someone who has experience playing in England. He's played a lot of county cricket as well. So I think him being in this squad, for at least England, with England in mind, made a lot of sense from an experience perspective. But I think if Shaheen needs to retain his place, the next couple of tours are absolutely crucial. Otherwise, I'm foreseeing him getting dropped from the squad moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate thing with Shaheen, right? He's not really been bad when you look at his numbers as a captain, as a player, but like while he's captain. He's not been that bad, but I still feel like it'd be difficult for him to retain a spot if he doesn't keep on performing and increasing the levels. However, one thing that, let's say, before we get into the squad itself and West Indies and the series that is coming against the British, why was Babar, as Aqib Dawood said, an obvious choice to be the captain? So in my head, and correct me if I'm wrong and if I'm missing something, but there were a couple of options. One, you continue with Shaheen Masood. Second, you appoint Saud Shakil because he was the vice captain, he moves to becoming a captain. You appoint Rizwan or Babar as the captain. And why do you think they went with Babar?
I think you've missed out a name. A lot of media rumors are circling around Salman Ali Agha also being an option. Yeah. But the reality is, I think Salman's captaincy hasn't been brought a lot of positives for Pakistan cricket, right? So maybe that was an option also. But I think Babar was the obvious choice, I think, because of apart from Salman, he was the only nailed-on player in the starting 11 in the Test cricket team. Because Saud's form also has been.
Why do you think? Like, if I think of it, and again, this comes from a person who loves Babar Azam, right? But why is he the obvious option? I haven't seen him score a century in forever. No, I know he's been relatively better. And let's say if I look at मतलब पिछली मैं एक दो सीरीज देखूं तो उसकी एवरेज अच्छी है, बुरी नहीं है, लेकिन तभी भी like इतना तो वो अच्छा, he's not outperforming anyone.
नहीं, I agree with you. I think the thing with Babar is कि अगर आप चाहते हो वो कैप्टन बने, and you've seen this with Zalmi, right?
Yeah.
You need to provide him with the right sort of structure and environment for him to thrive as a captain, right? आपको कोच ऐसा चाहिए, आपको कोचिंग स्टाफ ऐसा चाहिए जो उसको सपोर्ट करे, उसको ट्रस्ट करे. एंड आई थिंक कि अगर आप बाबर को लेट्स से प्री 2023 देखो, उसकी कैप्टनसी टेन्योर देखो, तो यस वो आई थिंक अपनी उस कैप्टनसी टेन्योर के एटलीस्ट स्टार्ट में ही वाज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट बैटर्स इन पाकिस्तान, राइट?
I don't like, I see the merits in terms of ठीक है, he is good, he is not bad and everything, but इतना obvious नहीं, right? If you go scenario by scenario, देखो शान मसूद को रिमूव करना था हमें, क्योंकि शान मसूद नहीं चल रहा था, honestly, like it's such a bad, we talked about like such a bad win ratio percentage, so we had to remove him. Saud Shakil in my head was, you know, he could have been the captain, but he just from last 1.5 year maybe
it's not been very impressive.
It's not very impressive, and it's not the right time to give him that captaincy when he's not performing well, because it just means added pressure.
Do you think it's sort of a Aqib Javed की तरफ से smoke screen है कि Babar was the obvious choice? I think they had no other choice. मुझे लगता है कि it came from a source of कि they had no other choice. So they turned back to वो I think वो होता नहीं, Thanos का एक बड़ा Avengers में famous quote है कि what did your failure do? It brought you back to me. I think it was more of that of a moment. I'm probably misquoting Thanos at this point in time, but something along those lines, right?
Yeah, मुझे बस ये है कि देखो, I just feel like maybe going back to Babar is very bad call for Babar.
For Babar, yes.
Because Babar has, okay, anyone can doubt कि भाई क्या चल रहा है etc. But Babar has just started his momentum. He will be under a lot of scrutiny if he does not perform.
Yeah.
He would be bashed by everyone left, right, and center. This is what happened when people took away their, let's say, Shaheen captaincy and gave it back to Babar, or vice versa. These things will just make him in a very bad place. Which I don't know what's wrong with Babar with taking that captaincy, because Babar needs to understand power is good, but it can really fuck you up.
100% अमर. आई थिंक मुझे ये लगता है पर्सनली कि पाकिस्तान की क्रिकेट टीम में कोई भी फॉर्मेट हो, अगर आप कैप्टनसी ले रहे हो, आप इतना बड़ा नाम हो, आपने एक डिक्लाइन देखा है, आपने बहुत मुश्किल वक्त देखा है पिछले कुछ सालों से, एंड अगर आप कैप्टनसी ले रहे हो, आई एम प्रीटी श्योर बाबर इज टेकन दैट कैप्टनसी विद सम रीअश्योरेंसेस दैट हैव कम अलोंग द वे, बट आई डोंट पर्सनली ट्रस्ट एनी रीअश्योरेंसेस दैट हैव कम फ्रॉम द पीसीपी, राइट? यू नेवर नो, इट्स अ वेरी वॉलेटाइल, इट्स अ वेरी वॉलेटाइल स्ट्रक्चर. आपको कुछ पता नहीं कि कल क्या लिखा है, राइट? For him to come into that structure and let's say performances अगर नहीं भी हैं उस तरह की desired in a short span of time, 6 महीने, 3 महीने, 4 महीने, you never know, इसको कल फिर निकाल देंगे, right? And that's going to take a hint. He's not getting any younger. I think he's hit 30s now. So
at the peak of his
so he's been support. I think he's left I think उसके पास अब 5-6 साल इंटरनेशनल क्रिकेट बची है, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं, मैक्सिमम. Is this the right call in the pinnacle of his career? But yeah, I think हमने पाकिस्तान क्रिकेट में ऐसी मिसालें भी देखी हैं जिनको कैप्टनसी मिली थी पहले, फिर उनसे कैप्टनसी ली गई, फिर जब वो दूसरे स्टेंट में कैप्टनसी में आए तो they did better, right? तो हो सकता है कि he matures from his previous experiences and leads better. जैसा I think ज़ल्मी में भी उसने इस बार अच्छा लीड किया था.
इस दफ़ा अच्छा लीड किया, लेकिन देखो बाबर, like, see, I love Virat Kohli, right? But Virat Kohli was never an exceptional white ball captain. Maybe red ball he was. Babar needs a team that can support him into being a very good captain, which means that he's not as flamboyant, as charismatic, or maybe, I don't know, he's not the person who can think outside of the box. He's not a Dhoni who can win you a World Cup with a Ashish Nehra kind of bowler.
Yeah.
So that's what bothers me about him, but maybe there's no other option who can do that in Pakistan.
Yep, I think it's a question yet to be answered. Let's just move on. Let's talk a little bit about the squad itself, right?
Yeah.
The West Indies squad. We've seen some interesting changes coming into the squad. The big news being, of course, Babar being appointed captain. The second big news being that Shaheen Afridi was dropped from the squad.
Makes sense.
Let's come on to that. Yeah. But before that, we've also seen a couple of new faces coming into the squad for the first time. Ali Usman coming into the squad. We've also seen Ubaid Shah being given a nod. Ghazi Gori, I'm not sure if he was in the squad. He was probably, but he's yet to debut. And Awais Zafar, of course, also coming into the squad. So these are some interesting new names that have come into the squad. What are your thoughts on these selections that have been made for the squad?
Yeah, so मेरे लिए सबसे, I think maybe it's a right call, but like obviously the miss out was Noman Ali. I think maybe he was getting old, and it was just for him. It didn't make sense for them to continue him any longer.
Yeah.
Even though there would be some kind of Caribbean pitches that would be there, but I think at the end of the day it makes sense. Normally served Pakistan well during that
Yeah.
time, especially those Aqib Javed pitches. But yeah, I think there was one missing out sort of I had. The second was obviously Shaheen Afridi, as you said, sort of saw it coming.
Yeah.
To be really honest, he hasn't been up to the mark in a very long time. And Aqib Javed, I don't know if you saw the PCB podcast, which I don't know why they're doing it with Salman, but it's such a wrong message. But regardless,
Yeah.
so they did a podcast with Salman Butt and Aqib Javed. Then Aqib Javed was very fair. He was like, "There's no way you can win a Test match without taking 10, 20 wickets, and that's the only way you can win it. And if that's the only way, we didn't see how same kind of bowlers like Shaheen Afridi and all of those kind of bowlers can do that for us without having any variety. So maybe that's what they went for, and I don't mind that.
I think one thing that I appreciate personally is the fact that they've insisted on making changes, right?
Yeah.
Whether those changes deliver or not, that's a different story altogether. But I think they've identified some problem areas. They've tried to work on those problem areas. Now I think I'm personally excited for how the West Indies series goes, because that's also going to shape how we go and play in England and the future as well of what Pakistan cricket looks like.
Yeah.
But one thing that just keeps bugging me is that maybe these changes have come in a bit late, because we realistically had a very good chance of making the World Test Championship finals, and I think we've sort of bottled it, and now I think we're out of the running. So I'd much rather that we look at these plugs in the squad and try filling them out for the next cycle. Like I think Nouman Ali, he's been a great servant for Pakistan cricket, but he's not the same anymore. He's not getting any younger, and we need to sort of phase him out and bring someone new into the picture. So
they got Ali Usman, if I'm not wrong.
yeah, I think Ali Usman, he can bowl slow left arm, so it's like to like replacement for
But
Nouman
I
Ali.
heard, like, I might be completely wrong. I was either Pro Sports or Backward Point that I heard it on. Is that he is probably also a better batsman than Nouman Ali?
Yeah, he's more of a bowling all-rounder, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't 100% remember it, but that was my understanding, that he's more. He can also bat well, so that's why he sort of works in that thing. But anyway, I think for me the other thing that sort of stood out was Amir Jamal, because what I was thinking is that why is Amir Jamal and Salman Butt asked him Aqib Javed this question, right? It was like, I wasn't convinced with his answer, but his question was, why did we bring in Amir Jamal when he already has, I forgot what the name was, the other all-rounder that played the last time. He didn't really play, but like he was part of
Amir Yamin.
No, it wasn't Amir Yamin. Someone who was
Ahmad Butt.
Ahmad Butt, yes.
Yeah.
So Salman Butt asked him this question, that why did we drop him and then bring in Amir Jamal even though he didn't play any match? And I wasn't convinced with Aqib answers, which was along the lines of that different skill set require different sort of different pitches require different skill set, and that is why Amir Jamal fit more naturally into being a enforcer or having a higher pace. But I feel like you cannot drop someone just because they didn't play. Like, you had to give them some sort of chance, right? And he didn't play, so you should have kept him in the squad.
Yeah, makes sense. But let's see where the needle takes us as Pakistan cricket.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the West Indies squad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's see how.
Let's see. We'll be covering it as we go along the West Indies series.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other big news, Amar, the contract revamp. So we've always had a structure for as long as I can remember watching cricket. Category A, B, C, D. You would reward players.
Only during Ramesh Raja's time the idea of contract came in. Before that, there were no contracts.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I didn't know that. But like, we've had a system in place, right? Like a B, C, D, with A being players, all format players that you would reward, or the stars of the show.
Yeah.
B would be players who would be specialists in one or two formats, and C would usually be players that only play a certain format, and D would of course be your emerging core of the players, the best performers, domestic performers that would get in. And now we have, I think, sort of revamped the entire structure. Do you want to go over it, or should I go over it?
I can go over it and give my preliminary understanding of it. So the idea is that as the growing focus on the league cricket, and as a country who has seen a decline in Test cricket and how people perceive it, this contract structure is a semblance of that, or is a, let's say, outcome of that.
Yeah.
Because essentially the idea is that we have different tracks now. There are, I think, 4 or 5 tracks. One is the track AB, which is a dual format Test plus ODI players, and then we have another track which is track A, where you only have test ball or red ball specialists, someone like Saud Shakil or someone like Shan Masood. Then you have BC, which are specialists for ODI and T20s.
Right.
And then we have track C only, which is 20i franchise specialist. And then we have track D, which is essentially the, let's say, the old contract D, or the
for the development bets,
player. Or from the NCA pipeline, essentially.
I think there's also a track A. I'm not sure if you mentioned it. This is primarily only
I did test
specialists. Yeah.
So what are your initial thoughts?
I think it's an interesting rebranding. One would wonder why they did it in the first place, and I think the only answer you could think of is something that you mentioned. There's an increasing money imbalance between formats, primarily because of how big franchise cricket is become. So Test cricket demands a lot of dedication, a lot of grinding out in the domestic scene before you make it to the team, and then the financial means that you can make of it are disproportionate to the means that you can make when you're playing T20 cricket. So I think it's sort of to counterbalance that you promote players who are in red ball specialists to stay as red ball specialists. Because let's say, take the example of Mohammad Abbas, a red ball fast bowler, a specialist in that format, would be making maybe 1/10 of what, let's say, a T20 specialist like Haris Sof would be making, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So it's the sort of disbalance, which is why emerging cricketers or newer bowlers would always try to upskill themselves in the T20 format so that they can get better contracts, they can get higher PSL contracts, play World Cups, play T20s, leagues. So I think them protecting the financial interests of these cricketers who are A and AB track players is a great call in that way of trying to promote Test cricket as a format, because it's a sort of a dying sport for Pakistan at the moment. It's a problem area.
I think so. Obviously, that's one thing, which is a positive thing, that you try to promote red ball cricket, and then red ball cricket also gives you products for other players as well, and you sort of incentivize people to play that, which is fair, and I agree with that in principle. But what I sort of disagree with is, and maybe they need to figure this out, and I don't want to be negative from the get-go, but maybe they need to figure out how to better function it. Because for example, Aqib Javed said that 85% of the decisions will be data-driven. Now, what kind of data are you looking at?
Yeah.
I think later they clarified that there will be this impact player data that they're looking at, with ESPN has. So my point is, why are you not looking at it before? Is it kind of a model that you're making, like an Excel model which churns out names?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if there's 15% human element, that 15% human element technically means that they will be the one deciding anyway.
Yeah.
Unless you say that, okay, we will only like 85% data, and then वो जो 10 नाम आते हैं उन 10 में से हम 3 select करेंगे, वो अलग बात है.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's no clarity on how this data 85% would work. It seemed like AI, which is like archive intelligence, like that's what it actually seems like at this point.
Yeah, I think another interesting thing that I saw, I think for the first time, that for track A specialists, they are allowed to officially play county cricket in foreign competition, which I think is great, right?
Yeah.
Especially, I think one area where we would want to improve our test team is playing in those SENA conditions.
Yeah.
So for them to be allowed to play, let's say, the English county or the Australian county or whatever the equivalent is going to be a great thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think other thing that I sort of didn't like were the lack of transparency around it. Although the entire conference was around, we will be more transparent, we'll give more transparency, but you're not telling anyone as to which track, let's say, which track does Babar follow now. Naturally, he falls in the track where ODI plus test specialist.
The AB track.
The AB track. But where does Salman Agha fall in? Because he's a T20 captain, but he's not really a T20 player.
Yeah, I think ideally he's also looking at probably an AB category,
Exactly.
but then he's also like
The T20
he's
captain.
supposed to be a C player, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit confusing.
So I feel like they need to give us more transparency around which player falls where, so that people know that it's not an arbitrary thing. Like, it's not tomorrow after they wake something like, Babar, Trexy. It's not that. There's a proper mechanism and there's proper list of people who falls where.
And I think in order to trying to solve a problem, they've created a new problem, right?
Exactly.
Now, what is Aqib Javed going to say to his son Shaheen Afridi, that no, you cannot be part of the test team because you are not a test specialist, right?
Yeah.
Because 6 months down the line, when Shaheen eventually, hopefully, improves his pace and all, he's going to say that I want to play test cricket, right? But
And how flexible will these contracts be? Like, is it okay, you are an AB player, let's say, I don't know, play ODI test, but I have proven myself only to be specialist for T20s. So when do you switch me back to that? When does that change happen?
And I think for C category, which is T20, they've allowed you to play, let's say, a couple of leagues. Now, let's say Babar Azam, who's an AB contract player, gets a contract in the Big Bash for Sydney Sixers again. Are you going to? Are you going? No. I think the captain retired, so they'll probably retain him. But that's a different story. So are you going to say to Babar that we cannot give you an NOC?
Exactly.
So that's going to be a gross inconsistency. That's going to lead
here.
him.
The problem is sometimes you need some players who are brand of your cricket, like Babar Azam, Shaheen Afridi. These are people who are like the brand of Pakistan cricket, right? Right. You could disagree with whether they're good or bad, and that's a discussion I don't want to get into. But if these are the people who are bringing in a lot of money for other leagues, and other leagues would want them to play for them, which means that you might have to give them more leverage than the other players. So it's a complicated, it's a good step in the right direction, but I feel like they need to give us more information to know as to how this will play out.
Absolutely. I think if it's played out right, this is probably one of the best structural changes they've made. But this needs to play out right. So they need to iron out these small wrinkles, and they need to decide on a set criteria where they need to ensure that they are not breaking that borders that they're creating or boundaries creating for specific individuals.
Exactly.
Once they start doing it, it's going to be floods.
I just feel like implementation wise it's a challenge, but although I don't know why I have that hope, but I'm hoping PCB will sort of work it out. But one thing, like if I don't think anyone is listening for PCB, but if someone is, just give us more transparency. Just like take like a survey or something where you ask for FAQs and then you answer those FAQs, right? Because I am sure at the back end you are not thinking, like, you don't want mistrust in you want more trust in you as someone who is a stakeholder in the game. So if you want that, then let us ask questions and let you answer those so that everyone is clear.
Absolutely. I think it goes a long way in also building credibility 100%. With the fan base and with supporters who have supported you
throughout
the turmoil that is Pakistan cricket
and is going through it. But but that's about it. I think that's about it in terms of context, because again, we don't know a lot. We don't know who the player is.
Do you think, like in terms of track A itself, do you think there are going to be the test specialist category? Do you think there are going to be players now, the likes of maybe Sajid Khan, Numan Ali, and similar players to that? Let's say, take the example of Shahnaz Dhani. Do you think they are going to be now incentivized enough to stay dedicated to test cricket?
I mean,
develop themselves in the red.
In theory, yes, because they do earn the most amount of money from the contracts. But then if you really think about it, PCB cannot match the amount of money that, let's say, Sufyan Mukim makes in when he plays LPL, for example, or like the amount of money that Harisov is making in whatever the Australian league is.
Big Bash.
Bash. So they cannot really make up that amount of money, which is why Test cricket as a sport will be questioned at some point. But I think they have done the best effort to protect it at least. At least Shahnawaz Dhani can now think of, you know what, I want to concentrate on Test cricket. I want to make the best use of, at least they are getting a handsome amount. And with the amount thing, right, they also increased a lot of salary for the players in the departments, etc., which is also a very good move.
Which is a good move. I was also thinking along the lines of that, let's say you are a young batter, right, or a young bowler. And let's say take the example of Abdullah Fazal, right? Now, Abdullah Fazal is probably a category D player at this point in time, right? And if he, let's say, keep performing like the way he did in Bangladesh, he's going to get promoted to a category A player. Now, on the parallel, the guy has also played well in the PSL, right? Now, the decision still remains for him whether he needs to double down on his test performances or red ball skill set, or at the same time explore the option of improving his power hitting and be a T20 specialist, right? I think that conundrum is still going to be there because you have, like you said, you have not incentivized, you have incentivized, but at the end of the day, T20 is always going to be a more glamorous option for you.
100%, I think. But also, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, Aqib said something along the lines of that the track, whatever is assigned, will be assigned according to the consent of the player. So I think it's a decision for Abdullah to make whether he wants to be a T20 specialist or wants to be an ODI specialist. Because yes, T20 is glamorous, but also remember, one bad season or one bad league and you're out. That's how, because there's so many players playing in it. It's so fucking diverse and
it's a demand and supply problem.
So maybe it's a decision that players need to make and stick by it, then whatever.
Make 100% sense. Let's
But
move on to the last segment of the
Yeah.
podcast itself. Did the ICC break the World Cup with the new format? I'll briefly go over it,
Yeah,
explain
yeah.
what the structure is. I think the new, at least for 2027 World Cup, we've already covered the World Cup. The structure that we were assuming is no longer there. Essentially, ICC will divide the format into 4 different stages. Stage 1 being Super Series. So the 3 lowest ranked qualified teams out of the 14, 12, 13 and 14 will play a round of robin, which means that they will play each other,
Yeah.
and the lowest 2
Yeah,
ranked
it's-
teams
yeah.
will get out of the tournament. So the one that wins the robin round will
It's essentially a
eventually,
tri-series, let's
yeah,
say.
it's essentially a tri series where the top performing team will qualify and the rest will get kicked out,
Yeah.
which will then move the rest of the 11 teams and the qualified team into a Super 6 stage, where there will be 2 groups of 6. You will play 5 games each. From the Super 6 stage, and top 3 from each group will move on to the next stage, the Super 7, plus the next best ranked team. This is similar to what the FIFA World Cup ranking was, where essentially a team who do not fit into the top 3, but in terms of net run rate, was the best 4th place team out of the 6 stage group.
Yeah.
From both groups would qualify. So it will be essentially top 7. Now, I think the Super 7s will each play against each other again.
Yeah.
And then the top 4 ranked teams will make the semi-final, and then we'll have the semi-finals and then the final. Now, there's just 2 things. Right?
Yeah.
What?
Before I go on, like realistically speaking, right? So it's the top 8-9 teams, whatever the teams are, let's say Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, all of those teams are making through, and then this Super Series thing, the winner will make through as well, and then we have certain additions from the host as well, which is the Zimbabwe and who else?
Namibia and South Africa.
But they did not put Namibia. So Namibia has to play the Super Series.
So yeah, they can potentially get out.
Yeah. So and my point was, if you added Zimbabwe and Namibia is not a, like, I'm not saying बहुत अच्छी team है, but like बेचारे अगर वो host कर रहे हैं तो let's just give them a
Yeah.
place as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know why they did that, but yeah. So that is the ODI World Cup format.
Yeah.
But there's also a new T20 World Cup format, which is slightly different than the ODI one, by the way. Like in T20 World Cup format, there are 20 teams, and then there's a top 10. Like there's a what do you call it? There's a top 10 group. Like after 20 teams, you take top 10, and then you play with eliminators, and then there's this idea of like region specific teams, like Scotland would come from
Right.
European League and things like those.
Interesting.
Yeah, so T20 World Cup, I think we can cover it slightly later, but it's slightly different than the ODI one.
Yeah.
Because ODI has limited teams, of course, because of the nature of the 50 over World Cup. But this T20 team is more diverse, it has more regions, and then those regions will send out players and make it top 10, and then top 10 will play like qualifiers and things like those.
That's pretty interesting, I would say. I think primarily, if you think about it, it's done to increase the number of matches.
Yeah.
I think the hidden agenda behind it is, of course, making more money, because
And
you
also
in
making
a
more
format.
Pakistan, India matches.
Yeah, in a
Like,
format
why
like
top
this.
7?
Yeah.
My gut feeling tells me, I'm not even kidding. The reason why it's top 7 is so that Pakistan can make it. Because it's not making it in top 6. Like, if I'm being genuine, they just want another Pakistan versus India match, and that is why they have made it top 7. That, okay, Pakistan they make it to.
यार नहीं, लेकिन मतलब वही वाली बात है ना कि इस फॉर्मेट में पोटेंशियली पाकिस्तान प्लेज इंडिया एटलीस्ट 3 times, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's horrible. Like,
But that's the thing, like, if you want to play, because obviously I see a lot of influence from India. Like, अगर इंडिया को खेलना है कोई मसला नहीं है, but bro, stop with these shenanigans, stop with like not shaking hands, like be a good ambassador of the fucking game. Like, respect the game, whatever it is. If you want to play, if you don't want to play, then just boycott it. Like, honestly, like when Pakistan boycotted, I was like, okay, I respect you. Like, obviously then they went back, which is not nice, but I respected the fact that they stood by their word. But
nahin, 100% agreed with you. But let's see how it unfolds. Let's see how it goes.
I think it's an interesting sort of thing that they have done for generally. And I think other thing that I'm going to mention is I remember seeing this Aqib Javed's conference where he was like, the reason why we made these turning fucking pitches against Australia was because we were scared that we might have to play qualifiers. Pakistan is currently ranked 5th. You have to be ninth in the ranking for you to play qualifiers. So either you were unaware about how the ranking works, Or B, are you just an idiot who comes on TV and says anything that they think of?
I think it's probably the latter. I'm not a disclaimer, not a huge Aqib Javed fan.
I think no one is at this point.
But yeah, I think that sort of covers what we wanted to talk about. Glad to be speaking in front of the mic for you guys again. A promise to ourselves and you guys, so that we are saying it out loud on the camera. We hope to be more consistent moving forward and speak our heart out every time we come sit in this room. Which is not going to be for longer, but but we'll probably be changing venues soon, maybe 3-4 episodes down the line. But that's that.
That's about it. Like, share, subscribe, and let us know what you want us to cover next. If there's anything specific, happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye.